How's it going, my boys? In today's episode, we are dive into about user management. This section is important because allows to know how to create, modify, or edit, add a user to groups and remove user depending if you want to preserve a home folder and other kind of configuration. So let's see. We're going to start with the most basic command, and is the user add command. This user add, as its name is about to create a user, because we are going to create a new entity, because a user on a server is like an entity that can perform whatever they want depending on their group permission and the permission about the user. So for this task, we need to execute using the sudo command. Remember, sudo command is like, it stands for super user do, and it's about maybe when you want to perform high level operations but you are not the root user. Remember, the idea is never use root user, because root user has a lot of power in a Linux system. So the idea is use sudo, because sudo allows to use a bit of that root power, but avoiding to maybe mess up something. So the idea is use sudo. For this case, by default, Debian user is into the sudo sudo groups, but others user we are going to create doesn't into or are not into the sudo group, so we have to manually add them to the group. So we are going to start with the most basic, and is create the Christian user. But maybe I highly recommend use the long version about this command, because the long version allows to maybe specify more information. What about this? Maybe if you use this one m parameter, okay, the m, thank you, then parameter create automatically the Christian homes folder. So this is important. It's like, okay, the user are going to have their own home folder, for example, /home/Christian. If we don't specify the home folder name, it will be automatically the same name as the user. The other important command is this one, s allows to specify or edit the bash interpreter or the command interpreter. This is important because depending on the command interpreter, this user can perform some others command. Before this video, I think by default the bin bash or bash command interpreter was by default if you don't specify this option, but I am wrong. The command interpreter by default is sh, because was before than a bash. If you're asking about sh or bash different, is maybe the name, funny name, because sh is just like sh, like a site where you can perform any kind of commands, but bash stands for born again sh or shell. That the shell is about where you can perform command, but something that maybe you have to iterate again to perform some aspects. That's why you say born again, because you make again that command interpreter, and I don't know, it's like a funny hint about the Linux creation and about that. But sh is so limit, so I highly recommend always use by default bin bash. So to to edit the command interpreter, you have to specify all the absolute path to the specific command interpreter. And the bin bash is the path where the bash program is a host. So remember that. And the last one that I recommend is this one, C. C allows to implement maybe description or a lot of maybe metadata information. This is useful maybe if you are using this account for other partner or co-workers, whatever you need to identify someone, because maybe Christian doesn't give us a lot of information, and maybe at the, I don't know, the DNE information just right there is not useful at all, because maybe are not readable nice or something like that. So to avoid affect the final user name, like this one for example, it's recommended to use this one C and the description. And the description you can put whatever you want. In this case, want. Oh, I forget to want. No, I forget. I'm sorry. Yeah, whatever you want. So the idea is, for example, if you are, I don't know, you are a server administrator and you have to create 1,000 accounts for each employee in your company, you can specify Christian, the last name, maybe the number of the identification number, like 1, 2, 3, and that's it. So let's create the user just like that and see what happened. Remember to check the corresponding files, because, for example, ATC passwd or ATC/shadow will be changed because we add a new user. So let's see what changed into these files. So ATC passwd, and as you can see, the last user was Christian, and as you can see is the 1001. Remember, the user is the user that we create after the system is created is after 1000. Before 1000, remember, are inside quotation mark user used by other system services or other programs that the idea is not used directly. Maybe you can use directly root, but in very specific situations. So I highly recommend about use root. So as you can see, we have the 1001. And maybe if you already understand the format, because I already told you in the last video, you see the Christian is the final name that we see just right there, or we see in who am I. This X is about the encrypted password, but for security purpose was removed just right there and moved to the shadow file. So let's see, after the shadow file, the user ID and the group ID, that is the same. The user description, as you can see, Christian, maybe the full name and the identification name, the identification number, the home folder that we can change. After in a few minutes we are going to change this and perform an interesting operation about what happened if I change the home user folder, but the user has files into that folder. So it's something interesting. And at the end we see the command interpreter. In this case is bin bash. So that's all. Maybe let's compute about the users folder, and as you can see we have a new folder about Christian. So, and if you want to see more information about that folder, let's see, we see the folder is assigned to the Christian user and the Christian group, also the Debian user and the Debian group. But this format we will cover in the future to understand what is all this information, because at the beginning could be kind of confusing to understand what the heck is that. So don't worry, because we are going to cover in the future. The next one is maybe the command user mod. User mod is the stance about user modification, so we can change the user information using this command. Also, this command like affect the user directly, we have to use the sudo operation. Remember, in the same episode, we are going to see how can add the Christian user or the new user to the sudo group to perform sudo operations. Remember, the sudo operations are important because without sudo we can't install apt package. So yeah, we can install anything because we are not sudo user. So that is important. We are going to start changing the user folder. So for example, if I don't like /home/Christian, let's change it like /home/Chryslo, my other alias name, so, or my other alias. So remove the Christian. Well, we are going to change Christian about Chryslo, and maybe if I perform this action, I'm going to remove the, well, I don't remember if we are going to remove the folder, but we are not going to move the folder information. So one operator or one argument that is important to perform this operation is this one m. This m we are going to move, well, it will move the all users folder content to the new one. So let's see. Once we execute the operation, let's see a home folder again, and as you can see, Chryslo was changed by Chryslo. I think other folder wasn't created, and the same one will be edited. So edited. So the idea is, don't forget, use that because the other content will be removed, but depending on the context, this option is important or not. Let's see again the, for example, atc passwd, and remember how we can see how the users folder change. Is not longer Christian, is Chryslo. And other one that I forget to see was the shadow. So let's see shadow, this one. I'm sorry, I think I don't remember if we have to use sudo. Yeah, we have to use sudo, and maybe if you see, we have this information just right there. Okay, remember, once the user is created, we doesn't assign a password where we can join as the user, because if the user has no password, we don't have a password to log in. So this is important. The other information you already know about it is about the expiration and warning days and more. So the other one is add the user to sudo group. But after that, I would like to show you how is a user who doesn't have, who doesn't have in the sudo group, for enter to the Christian to enter in the Christian user, we have to use the su Christian. And maybe if you use this command without sudo, the system are going to ask you the user's password, but the user has not a password, so it's impossible to log in as this user. Else, if you use the sudo, and the sudo is like force the system to use this user. So let's perform sudo operation. For example, see the atc shadow file. As you can see, we see permission denied, but if we use sudo, the system are going to tell you, okay, first of all, we can see that because the user doesn't have a password, so to execute the sudo operation, we have to enter the user's password. Maybe to give a request authority is like, yeah, I was Christian when I execute this command. So it's all about login and traceability. So we can perform action like this user because the user doesn't have a password. So to add a user password is using the passwd. To use the passwd is easy because we only use this command with Christian. I remember that, well, this command is important because it's about the well, to change or set a password. So I remember is using sudo. Let's see. Of course, we have to use the sudo prefix, and we can enter a new password. So let's see this one and this new one, and the user has a password. Let's see, for example, cat atc shadow. I'm sorry. And as you can see, well, this changed, and we can't log in as a Christian. For example, so Christian without sudo, we can use this because the user already has a password, and we can log in as Christian. Who am I? Christian again, and we can perform the sudo because the sudo asks for the user password, and the user has already password, yeah. But something is remaining. So shadow, let's input the Christian's password, and as you can see, the Christian is not in the sudoers file. The sudoers file is other way to tell us, hey, this guy doesn't have the, well, this guy or this user is not into the sudo group. So let's add this user to the sudo group. Let's log out from Christian and add this modification. Because this is a modification, we have to use again user mod, and we have to use the A and uppercase G because we are going to add a group add A about add. So I repeat it again. The A is about add a user, and the uppercase G is about the group. So we are going to add this user to a, well, we are going to add this user to a group. In this case, the group is sudo, and the user in question is Christian. Once we perform this action, remember we have the I don't remember what was the command. Let me see. Okay, here we are. We can use the id command to see a list about all the user groups. So in my case in Debian, I am in all these groups, including the sudo group. Is the 27 the 27 HUUE ID. Well, the group ID. But if I change to Christian, but because I am lazy, I'm going to use sudo and perform ID. As you can see, I'm not in all these groups, and all these groups are not necessary at all because, for example, this plug dev or floppy or CD-ROM is about to use this external device to add, I don't know, memory cards, USB memories, or use CDs, and well, this is a remote server, so we can access physically to the server. So the most important, or the most important are sudo, and that's all. Maybe as you can see, we have the user ID, the group ID, and the groups. In this case, the mainly group and the other groups like sudo. So we are in the sudo group, and we are already execute a sudo operation. For example, if we use sudo ATC shadow, we can see the shadow. Well, let's suppose we can see the shadow. Oh my god, I always forget to use the cut, and as you can see, we can see this file that on the past we can't, or perform, for example, apt update to packaging managing or management. So I think that's all. Or in other hand, we can maybe change the command interpreter, but in my server I'm between sh and bash. Let's change the command interpreter about Christian with sh, because I don't have other ones. So we can use this in Debian, for example, user mod. Well, I can, from Christian, I can change the Debian, but I am going to avoid, well, I avoid to modify the Debian, because the Debian is the main user about the server, so I don't recommend at this moment. So let's change use bin sh about shell Christian. Thank you so much. And we change to Christian. First of all, you can see the promise change because we are using a maybe, well, the sh is not configured at all. It's not like a primitive program. That's not the case, but bash is already configured, and that's why you can see Debian and the server ID and more. But sh is not configured at all, so we don't see any. For example, who am I? In this case, is so important to remember in what user I'm using right now. And in other hand, if we see, for example, the passwd, we are going to see the command interpreter change. For example, cat atc. Oh my goodness. Oh, what's happened right there? Even the keywords used change. And as you can see, we have the bin sh instead of bin bash. So yeah, I don't recommend sh. So let's change it again. Well, I can change this from Christian. So let's back again and use sudo user mod s bin bash Christian. Maybe I have to reload, maybe. Oh my goodness. Cat atc. Let's see something. Passwd. Well, it's already been bashed, but maybe I have to log in again or restart as a user, not the server. Oh my goodness, what happened, Christian? Okay, and as you can see, we are back using the bin bash. So I think that's all. The last command is the user del. It stands about user deletion. So let's remove Christian, sadly. So Christian, see you again. And maybe if you remove the user in this way, the user folder keeps remain. So the idea, maybe if you are not longer interested about the users and the user home folder, you can use this one R, and this will remove the users folder. So let's see what happened. This command is the operation was performed successful. Maybe, I don't know, if you see cat atc passwd, you see the Christian is no longer here, also in shadow. Or if you use ls home, the Chorislaw folder is not longer available. So I hope this video was helpful, and see you in the next time. Bye bye.